Did we just see what we think we just saw? Wow!
And just like that, we are back. It is the 4th and 1 podcast coming to you live from Lancaster Lidditz and Williamstown, Pennsylvania. It's a good week, and we're happy to be here everywhere you get your podcasts. 4th and 1 podcasts. That's where you can find us. YouTube, Instagram, everywhere, as well as TikTok at 4th and 1 pod. I am your host, the man who knows no bounds, aka Simeon, as always sitting next to, beside, and above Captain Boring himself, Micaiah.
Yo.
And the spatial awareness, practicing his invisibility superpower. It is NotCFBIII Roberto, Mr. Can't Climb Stairs himself. We're happy to be here. Robert is in the bathroom, and we're doing something a little bit different, mostly because I think, Micaiah, we had the biggest upset of the year so far last week. And we're going to start this off by saying, Liberty, what are you doing? I have been hard on you guys in the past, but what you guys did last week, I hope you have your Guardian caps on, because you wanted to play with the big boys. So here you go. You decided back in 2019, got to speed up my teleprompter a little bit here. I'm going to let you guys into it, that you needed to stroke your president's ego just a little bit more, and announced out of nowhere, really, that you were going up from FCS to FBS. And I'll give you credit. You were the first one to do it. You were the cool kids on campus, the first one, the trendsetters. So good on you. You announced that you were going to add and spend more money than you did on Falwell's payout to add to your stadium. You got the bad boy of the SEC, Hugh Freeze, who just happened to be available because someone spent a little bit too much time at the strip club, to come and coach for you. And the first stupid choice that you made was to go to the basement of the FBS and hit up Conference USA. But here you are. You come in and you produce, in your first couple years, a top 5 quarterback who came in backup time and garbage time, my understanding, for Green Bay this weekend. Shout out Malik Willis, for those of you who remember. He was a Liberty guy. Farwell leaves, and you get the next good hire in Jimmy Cladwell. Dude who led Coastal Carolina to that glorious run in 2020. Okay? Last year, you go undefeated and beat New Mexico State. Shout out Diago Pavla. Am I pronouncing
Pavia.
Pavia. Thank you, Makai. No L. Always add an L. There's no L in his last name. And you go undefeated and then lose in your bowl game. They got Oregon, right, Makai, last year?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Got trounced by Oregon.
Absolutely trashed by Oregon. Real showing people that you're the basement dweller you are. So you decide to do things a little bit different. And this year you decide to get one of, if not the weakest schedule in the FBS. You got, so the weakest schedule, you return your starting quarterback, and I believe your starting running back, and you lose to a team that hasn't won a game in over a year. You lose to a team so badly that God, I don't think, wants you in heaven anymore, and Satan's deciding, maybe that's not the best choice. You lose to a team so nice that their fans go back to the stands politely after they upset you the first time, just for you guys to fail at a backwards lateral with 1 second left on the clock. Guys, you got fucked harder than the kids going off campus.
Heyo.
What was that, Liberty? You want to play football? No, you don't get to. Gone are the days of the ego. That's my rant over. I'm done. Dude, Did you see that? That was disrespectful to the sport of football.
You checked in for 5 minutes. We've been going for just about 5 minutes, 5 seconds short of 5 minutes, and you're done. You checked in for this rant, and now you're done for the rest of the podcast.
Probably.
Yes,
Listen, I got one good drive in me.
You got one good Alex Orgy drive, and that's it for you. So for those of you that don't know, listen, Liberty played Kennesaw State on a Wednesday night, last Wednesday night, I believe.
Might have been Tuesday.
It was either Tuesday, Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday night. Some day that no one was watching football at that time, and they were playing Kennesaw State, who, as Simeon just gloriously mentioned, made the move this year from FCS, had 0-6 in the against FBS opponents, and they were a 27-point favorite on the road. And they went in and got really kind of manhandled for a portion of that game. I didn't see much of the game, but I watched the highlights. And, yeah, it's no real excuse if you are the Liberty Flames to what happened to you and it was Wednesday night. Here's the thing. Total yardage just about even. You had one more turnover, but they had time of possession by 5 minutes, 32-27. You just cannot do that. A team that could not move the football in Kennesaw State. In the highlights, because I watched an extended 30 minutes highlights, the commentators were making note that Kennesaw State Owls could not move the football previously, and they went up and down the field on your Liberty Flame defense. Yes, you are an embarrassment to the sport. You're an embarrassment to Conference USA, considering that now you're trailing Jacksonville State, who also recently made the jump and who's better than you, and Western Kentucky, who's been there for a minute. But yeah, that first of all, A+ rant. Secondly, F- loss to Liberty. 20. I think that's the biggest upset this season of 27.5 points.
I mean, I don't know what the Vandy, and I mean we can get right into that. The Vandy Alabama game was. I don't know what the favorites there was, but I'm not sure what's going on with the SEC right now, because Vanderbilt's actually not a half bad team. That's a bowl win. That's a bowl winning team. They're 5-3 right now, compared to the rest of the SEC. I mean, granted, most of that is, I think, their new offensive coordinator and their quarterback, plus whatever culture change they have. But not that Texas hasn't looked. What's the word I'm looking for? Hasn't looked exposed this year, but they did. I don't know if just people aren't playing Vanderbilt tough, or what happened.
It's the same old kind of story for everybody. So it's Clark Lee comes in 2 years ago and says, listen, there's no reason we can't be at Alabama football, and everyone laughs. But then the transfer portal comes along, and you go and you get guys who have played a lot of football, senior experienced players, Diego Pavia being one of them. You go and get a offensive coordinator in a system with the quarterback that work together, that have worked together in the past. So it's kind of a fluid motion in. And then you just instill a belief into a program to say, listen, guys, we're probably not going to go undefeated. We're probably not going to win the Natty. But it takes nothing to give your hardest effort every single day. Besides that, it takes effort to give your hardest every single day. So that's just kind of what Clark Lee's doing down there in Vanderbilt. I believe he's a Vanderbilt alum. Here comes Robert laboring up them stairs. Robert, do you know, is Clark Lee... Is Clark Lee
yes, he is.
An alum of Vandy? He is?
I got you. He is, yeah.
All right. So
he played fullback from 2002 to 2004.
That's a tough position. That's exactly what I'm saying. He played a position, fullback. He comes into Vandy. He guys go, all we got to do is be competitive. They're in Nashville. Recruits are going to go to Nashville. So why not us? But he's instilling a belief and a rugged toughness of, guys, we might not win, but let's just stay close and let's be competitive. And so far, it's working out wonderfully for Clark Lee and the Commodores.
They had a chance for the upset on Saturday.
Yeah, it was an onside kick, bouncing ball away for sure.
Yeah.
Robert, you did miss a plus rant that Simeon had of disappointment of Liberty's loss to
amen, brother.
to Kennesaw State.
That's not good.
They were a 27-point favorite, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the biggest spread loss this season. Yeah.
Yeah, because Vandy's was what, 25?
5.
24?
Yeah. Yeah. So just real quick, here's what I'm gonna do, Simeon, if you don't mind. For review, I just wrote down a bunch of headlines. I'm just gonna read one headline right after another, and then when I'm done with all of the headlines, you guys jump in and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It doesn't have to be in the headline. It can be somewhere else. But is everyone ready for this? Here we go.
Heck yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right. Oregon dominates. Ohio State and Penn State set up a showdown for Saturday after struggling. Vandy covers against Texas, but Texas gets the dub. BYU and Iowa State are the class of the Big 12. Notre Dame dismantles Navy. Indiana is for real. SMU gets a block as time expires, and then a stop on a 2-point try in overtime to beat Duke. A&M sits all alone in the SEC. That was not on my bingo card. And finally, in a rant that I should have wrote one for, Eastern Michigan sucks. You're playing 1-6 Akron, and you're 5-2, and you're playing Akron on the road. There was like 4 people there, and 2 of them being the play-by-play guys, and you can't beat Akron. Are you kidding me?
They blew a lead, didn't they?
Huh?
Didn't they blow a lead?
No, they never had it. It was at one point.
Awesome.
I think it was 18-0. At one point, it was 18-0. They came all the way back, had the ball down. It was 21-25. So if they go down and score, I cover. I get the push. They would have saved me from my 0-3. And what does it do? Ball pops out, coughs it up. I go 0-3 on the week. I am now in last place with you two Nimrods tied for first somehow.
Let's go.
Eastern Michigan, you're an embarrassment to the sport, an embarrassment to the MAC conference. You and Liberty should play, and the winner of that has to we'll call it the toilet bowl, because it's just embarrassing.
The loser of that has to replace Delaware in whatever conference they're coming up from next year. I have to say, and I want to get to the PSU-OSU game, I have to say the MAC has lost the hardest when it comes, at least so far, 1 year in, when it comes to the transfer portal. Because teams are spreading the ball, the players around the most, they were already kind of the lovable basement teams. Like, you had the Sun Belt, you had Conference USA, and it was like, whatever. And then every now and again, Toledo would just come out of nowhere or whatever the case is. But like now, they just look ugly. Like, have you seen the MAC conference this year? It's like it's the same. They're all the same team. It's a bunch of white guys who were too good to make it in Division II, but not good enough to make it to real programs. So they're all just playing in like Ohio.
I think part of that, Simeon, is because teams want experienced players. So if you're going to go out and try to get like a 3-year starter or a 2-year starter, you're probably going to go look in the MAC or somewhere like that, because also those players are going to be cheap because their value isn't as high as the 4-star who has started 2 years for Tennessee, right? Like, as Robert reported to us in the group chat today, Bryce Underwood, current verbal commit of LSU. Michigan's been trying to. It's between LSU and Michigan. Michigan's trying to flip flip him back. Was he ever committed to Michigan?
I don't think so. I think there was like a inkling that he might.
And then he committed. So he's
from right outside Ann Arbor, basically.
He flipped, or not didn't flip. He went to LSU. Michigan's been trying to get him to flip to Michigan, obviously. And he's worth like $5 or $6 million. But the kid's in the MAC, the 2-star, as you said, the middle linebacker who has 900 tackles in 3 career seasons for Toledo. He doesn't know, or teams won't value him so high as a 5-star recruit because he is just from the MAC. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Eastern Michigan sucks, but the one I wanted to pick on here is the title that you have here, is OSU PSU set up for the showdown on Saturday. Drew Allar is a game time call currently for against the Buckeyes. I don't even know where that game is being held. That would have been a smart.
Penn State.
It's in Happy Valley. It's at 12 on Fox, right? It's the big noon kickoff game. So dumb, Fox. Why did you do that? Lots of quarterback news. McNamara is out with a concussion. Pitt's unsure if Holstein can play against SMU. I'm seeing, obviously, Jack Tuttle retired, Michigan's 1.5 game starter. But that's a huge deal if Drew Allar doesn't play, because he's kind of like needed this weekend. Don't you think?
I'm going to be honest with you. Against Wisconsin, Bo Prebula looked light years better than Drew. Like, that offense moved with Bo, in my opinion, because he was more of a dual threat quarterback. I don't think he has such a long ball that Drew does, but Drew only throws a long ball when it's into the 5th row in section 202. But Bo has that more running ability, and the offense is like if they have a running quarterback, Penn State's a much better team.
So no, I guess it. I guess it. According to Robert, I guess it doesn't really matter. Listen, I would only say it matters because Prebula doesn't have the starts, and yes, it's at home, but
Prebula sounds like a part of the body that just is oozy and gooey.
Yeah, well, I hated that. But Allar has seen a lot more football, a lot more defenses, and if Ohio State can throw some confusion at him, I think that's kind of where it's at there, and that's why it matters most. However, to Robert's point, what Andy Kotelnicki wants to do offensively fits better with Bo at quarterback because he's more of the running threat. He kind of brings in that triple option that they can run. RPOs are a little better, running quarterback draws, design quarterback runs. So it's going to be very interesting. If I'm Franklin, you leave it up so that Ohio State has to prepare for 2 quarterbacks all week, because if you're preparing for 2, you're not preparing for 1 100% of the time, which is, I think, better, at least in my mind.
At least from a psychological game plan perspective, I think you're right. Okay, so can we talk about how Navy disappointed me this weekend?
Yeah, go for it.
If I am okay, this is Simeon's game of names of college football names ad lib. So insert here the head coach of Notre Dame. What's his name?
Oh! I'm sorry. I didn't know.
I
didn't know you were at Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman. Thank you.
I thought you were playing a hypothetical game.
No.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember his name. So and now any time that says I'll just give you the person and the position and you tell me the name, because
great. Wonderful. Marcus Freeman.
I'm horrible with names. So insert Notre Dame Marcus Freeman.
Yep.
Here. So if I'm Marcus Freeman, I am kicking myself that I lost to
Northern Illinois.
Yeah, I'm super happy that Texas A&M is doing really well and I have a win against them, and that's the only loss. I'm wondering if the Texas A&M win. Now, granted, it's the ranking, so it doesn't matter. Right now, they're where they need to be from an at-large perspective. But I am kicking myself that I lost to Northern Illinois, and I am taking it out on every other team that rolls up my way, including Navy, like they did. They dismantled. I thought Navy was going to keep it close. This was their first game.
Well, the only caveat, yes, they did dismantle. The only caveat to this, I don't know how much of the game you watched. Navy had 6 turnovers. Two of them, one of them was a scoop and score for a touchdown, and then I think they had a pick 6. I think. So
Sounds right. I think I saw highlights.
It kind of just unspiraled. But here are the stats. Notre Dame had 466 yards of total offense, right? So Navy could not stop Notre Dame on regular possessions. It was going to have to be a tit for tat. If Navy didn't turn the ball over, this was going to be a 38-35 game, okay? Because Navy had 310 total yards. They had 17 first downs. Time of possession was just about even, only a minute off in favor of Notre Dame. Notre Dame had 20 first downs. Navy had 17. But the big difference was Navy had 6 turnovers on the day. And 310 total yards. So Navy was able to move the football. They had almost 200 total yards in offensive yards in the first half, did Navy against Notre Dame. And they were getting their breaks beaten off at halftime. It was 31-7, but Navy was moving the football. So, yes, I get your point and what you're saying, but this game, and this is kind of cheap for me to say, this game was a lot closer if you actually watch the game and how it progressed than what the score indicates.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games you look at it and you go, if they play again, this game's probably a lot closer.
Yeah.
And if they're not, and if they actually, if Notre Dame actually sucks it up and actually goes to Annapolis and plays like an actual Navy home game and isn't like, oh, well, we want to go play at MetLife. Like, I mean, they had 7 fumbles. They were able to get back 2 of them, which is kind of goes with Navy's offense because they do run a lot of pitch, a lot of option. Like, they still run that, so it comes with the offense. But, I mean, they still ran for 222 yards.
Right. So
Like,
they came in tied for second in the FBS with fewest turnovers with 2. They
Right.
had that in the first quarter, and then it just kind of spiraled after that. And when your talent disadvantage is that great against a big boy like Notre Dame, like if you have more than 2 turnovers, you're gonna lose the game, and 6, you're getting absolutely decimated. I mean, it's gonna look like a Central Michigan in the dynasty against Miami sort of dismantling.
and to not take it, like, I mean, not to take anything away from Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame, their offense still looked good, Not, okay, good for Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame's a very wishy-washy team when it comes to offense sometimes. Like, Riley
They're throwing
Leonard
the
only
ball
threw,
better.
I mean, he threw for 178, which is good.
Right.
But, I mean, they ran for 265, and they did it with 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different guys. So, offensively, they at least got it going, but they also had the ball 6 more times than what Navy did, essentially, based off of turnovers. But, I mean, I don't look down on Navy for this one. I mean,
I do.
athletically speaking, yeah, Notre Dame. This is the score you should expect, even when if
not
Navy
Navy.
is
Sorry.
if Navy is ranked number, like, regardless, athletically speaking, like, Notre Dame should beat them handily.
It's kind of sad that they dropped Navy from the rankings. I get it, and I think they did Vanderbilt too, which was very rude. But here's my question: you said that Navy. You said Navy, and I thought you were saying Notre Dame. You don't hold this one against Navy, and I said I do, and I meant Notre Dame. Rob, in the chat, you sent basically your current picks, my understanding, for the playoffs if they were to happen today.
Yeah.
And how you had this set up. And I'm looking at these teams. Number 1, Oregon, Big Ten champ. Georgia, SEC champ. We'll see. Miami, ACC champ. 4 is Iowa State.
We'll
Big
see
12
on Miami.
champ. That's perfectly fair. Here gets my question.
I mean,
5
they're
Ohio State,
large. Yeah.
6 Texas, 7 Tennessee, 8 Penn State, maybe 9 Clemson, 10 Indiana, 11 Notre Dame, 12 Boise. Besides the 12-6 or 12-5 thing, whatever the group of 6 game, I'm looking at that list and I'm going, okay, even the teams that are quote unquote unstable, right? The Georgias, who have looked a little wishy-washy at times, or the Miamis, who've looked a little wishy-washy. Tennessee can be said the same thing. I think the fakest team on your list there is Notre Dame. They just, from what I've seen and the results that I've gotten from their games, have just not, and maybe it's biased from the Northern Illinois, they just haven't impressed me enough to say that they're a playoff-worthy team.
Oh, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, when you look at all the teams that are on there, yeah, you look at Notre Dame and you go, one of these things is not like the other. And it's the next, they have to play 21st ranked Army, which, you know, okay, so if they go and they beat Army, it's like, oh, there's another ranked victory. But,
Right.
you know, it's Army and it's Navy. Not to take anything away from those two schools because they give literally everybody issues when they play. But if Notre Dame gets Ohio State right off the rip, Ohio State's probably going to win by 2 touchdowns, depending on what Ohio State team shows up, if they're going to run the ball more than 60 yards. You know, if they play Tennessee explodes. You know, who knows? Texas A&M might even be in there at some point. Or if they get stuck with against Indiana might put 75 on them with the way that offense plays.
Who's the first undefeated of who's the first of these left undefeated teams that'll lost fines? Oregon, Penn State, Miami, BYU, Iowa State, Indiana, Pittsburgh, or Army. So who finds the loss first?
Penn State this weekend.
Yeah. If it's not Penn, well, here's the deal: is
I think it's Miami. Miami's been playing this game of let's just see what type of game we can almost lose and then win.
We have some technicalities here before we get to Miami, because I agree with you 100%. If Pitt's quarterback doesn't play, okay,
Sure.
technically probably them. I don't know who their backup is, right? I think Penn State is there. If your question is who has the attitude to lose the first game out of the undefeated teams, the answer, without a doubt, is Miami, because they've played way too many close games to be ranked number 5 right now, in my opinion. For how good Cam Ward looked and how good their offense looked at manhandling Florida week 1, and then, you know, all the other teams.
That's Florida.
Well, now it is. Right? I mean, but you squeeze by Louisville and you don't blow out a Florida State team who should probably just shut down their football program at this point. Give me a break. They're getting 2.5 on under. They're only a 2.5 point underdog over North Carolina. They're playing North Carolina this week. Stop it. That's not a team in Tallahassee. That's barely Powder Puff. Dear Lord. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Miami. I got off track. Donald Trump. I weaved it. Yeah.
Florida State is the first team ever to be ranked in the top 10 and then start the next season 1-7.
What is this?
No.
Guys, California has a better record.
No,
and they're
FBS
0-4 in
team
conference.
in history has gone undefeated and then has started the next year 1-7. So you're absolutely right about Tallahassee. Rob, something to me about the BYU Iowa State. They're good. They can hold their own. They go to the playoff. They'll both be great, I think. Right? They'll hold their own. Might not win, but they'll hold their own. I don't know if it's just because they're living in the Big 12 conference or if it's the style they're playing. it just seemed like BYU's winning a bunch of one-score games. Iowa State's feels like they're doing the same thing, kind of like that TCU vibe. It just feels like at some point, maybe on the same weekend, BYU, Iowa State, they're both going to find a loss. And one of them might even find 2 losses now down the stretch. I mean, there are only 5 games left of the season here. How we're at that point
4 for
already.
BYU.
4 for BYU.
Yeah, 4 for BYU, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on BYU, Iowa State being the class of the Big 12?
If any of them is going to lose 2, it's probably going to be Iowa State. Just because here's the problem with the Big 12, and we said this in the beginning of the year, is this is going to be the most close-knit, goofy conference because there's no lead horse. And it's like you look and you're like, oh, well, BYU's ranked number 9. They're 5-0 and 8-0. But, I mean, when you go and you look at their games, you know, they beat UCF by 2 score. They beat Oklahoma State by 3. Like, they're playing teams in the conference, and, like, their games are somewhat close, but then they're not close. And I don't have confidence in any of these. Like, probably the best team right now in the Big 12 is probably Colorado.
Which did not have that on my bingo card.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest thing, because did I think that they would turn it around? Yes and no. I figured they would be a little bit better, but moving to the Big 12 was the best thing for them because the Big 12, outside of BYU, Iowa State, and Kansas State, is turning out, and Colorado is turning out to be nothing. Like it's a team's full of nothing. Oklahoma State is 0-5 in the conference. Ollie Gordon apparently doesn't know how to run the ball. Kansas, who I thought would win the whole conference, is 1-4, 2-6. Like, all they talk about UCF is how they run the ball all the time and they're the leading rushers of the nation. That's all fine and dandy. But when you're 3-5 in the league and 1-4 in conference, that doesn't mean jack.
I mean, I thought that Utah was going to win the conference, be the big boys up front, win that conference. Colorado's schedule, they're off this week.
Down.
They're off this week. They got Texas Tech, then Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. The only one with a winning conference record currently is Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, I think, is now close to 500 in the conference based on their loss last week. So Colorado has the easiest path. Now, they do have a loss to Kansas State. So they're going to have to hope that Kansas State finds a loss somewhere along the way. However, Kansas, if we go to the Kansas State Wildcats schedule.
Oh, I just had it up.
They get Iowa State at the end.
They
have
have
Iowa State at the end.
Thank you, Robert. They have Iowa State at the end. So that might figure itself out to where Colorado might just have to sit back, not worry about it, and find themselves in the Big 12 championship game. If that happens, if they find a way in to the college football playoff, because they'll win the Big 12 championship game, let's just get into this real quick. Deion Sanders is like, that's the coach of the year. Wrong. If you're looking at this and Kirk Cignetti, if you're looking at this season and Kirk Cignetti is not your AP coach of the year and Deion Sanders is, then you have lost the right to vote in any future college football awards because it is absolutely clear Kirk Cignetti is the coach of the year.
When you beat a good Washington team by 2 scores with a backup QB,
I don't even care about Washington. It's the fact that Deion has Shedeur Sanders, who's probably going to be the first quarterback off the board in the draft.
Yeah. Don't know.
And Travis Hunter, who might be the first overall pick in the draft. Okay, you have that talent. You should be making it this far. Indiana has I was listening to College Game Day podcast. Kirk Cignetti said he has 20 combine players and maybe 1 draftable player off of that. So just think about that. Think about what Indiana is doing. Colorado has 2 day 1 top 10 picks. Indiana has 1 day combined 3-day draft pick. So like this isn't even close, Stephen A. You need to go. I understand you're backing Deion because he's your boy, and Deion. This is commendable what he is doing, but he is not coach of the year. Kirk Cincinnati is, and that's my rant for today's podcast as
They're
well.
playing both sides. I'm looking at their ESPN page right now. They're playing both sides of the ball. They're second in points for, which is impressive given the teams they've played against now, at least the second half of the season. The first half of the season, okay, yeah, UCLA, Charlotte, Western Illinois, calm down. But they're second in the nation in points for, and they're seventh in points against, averaging 14 points. Letting teams up. You have a guy named Curtis Rourke who has 15 TDs on the year and a QBR of 92.
Yeah.
Almost 2,000 and didn't play a game. He would have had 2,000 passing yards. They haven't had an award winner in Indiana since '89. Anthony Q. Thompson, to answer your question, there's your trivia for the week. This is a team that shouldn't have been doing what they're doing, Micaiah. You're 100% accurate. They have a Michigan State team who prefers to get into fights, I've figured out, I guess, than to actually play football. That's 2 years in a row, guys, that you started to fight against Michigan. Calm. They took a
2
break,
out of 3. They
2
took
out
a
of
break.
3.
Yeah.
You're over 500 in starting fights, okay? And you have a Michigan team who is, we're all assuming, is going to lose all of the rest of their games. And then Ohio State and a Purdue team who can't figure out how to play the game of football as well. So, one more tough. Robert, go.
If Indiana wins one more game, this will be the third time that they have had 9 wins in their entire history.
Yeah.
And it will be the first time since 1967 that they will have won 9 games.
It is the second time that they've ever been 8-0, by the way. First time was, I think, some back in the 60s. I think 67. They went 8-0 and made it to the Rose Bowl that year. And yeah, I don't know if they've ever had a 10-win season, Robert. So that would be something.
They haven't.
So you get Michigan at home, who, Simeon, as you said, Michigan could very well lose the rest of their games. However, I think that they'll get one of these ranked teams that they play at the end of the year.
Just to be like that. That's how Michigan does.
That's how
right?
2024 is. Okay,
Well,
that's just how 24 is going.
Yeah, and Michigan's the type of team who will lose, 11 games, and then they'll get to Ohio State and blow them out by 30.
Right, something like that.
Yeah.
But that Ohio State game, very fascinating. Just to finish up Colorado's going to get got by a team who can run the football. And if you look at it, they got in their 2 losses were against the 2 teams that can run the football. Nebraska got them by 18. That was on the road. And then at home was Kansas State. And what does Kansas State like to do? They like to run the football. Colorado is 130th in the nation in rushing yards per game.
I was about to say that.
So
they have Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State.
They can't. And again, I'm not harping on anything. I'm just saying that Colorado, if they can't control a game. You need a running game to be able to control a football game. They just can't do that.
Of course, it didn't pull. I'm trying to figure out where all these teams are ranked. Hold on. In rushing, those are their 4 teams. They have Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State, which has Ollie Gordon. Whether or not he decides he actually wants to run the football, again, that was a horrible. Rushing yards, 75th is Utah, 150. 55th is Texas Tech.
Go ahead, Robert.
Just so Colorado's leading rusher has 271 yards on the season. That ranks him 214th.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's just this is not a Colorado hating thing. This is just fact. Colorado's probably going to get got. Go ahead.
Kansas is 16th in the nation.
And this is what I'm saying. Like, when you rely heavily on the pass, and this is just as in for Colorado, you can say this about any air raid system, right? When you rely so heavily on the pass, eventually when you run into a team that can run the football and control the clock and know that they can rush 4, drop 7, rush 3, drop 8, it makes it very hard to move the football eventually, right now the talent of Travis Hunter, the skill and talent of Shedeur Sanders is definitely making up for that. Robert, are we making anything of Texas losing or Texas just covering by 3, or is this more of a Vandy thing?
Well, I just think it's Texas is coming off of tough loss to Georgia, and then you have to go. They played at Vandy, didn't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
Right. You're going to a team going to a team's home that is very like Vandy knows what they need to do, and they just need to keep the games close. And like you said, they just need to be competitive. But like Vandy doesn't have anything to lose. Texas has everything to lose. So I don't really make it like it's not really that big of a deal for me. If they would have blown them out, it would have been like, okay, whatever, we're not even talking about that game, but it's just because they covered, it's kind of news. But I wouldn't make too much of a big of it. But I mean, it does kind of make. Does Texas play Texas A&M this year? Because
Yeah, that's Black
Yes,
Friday.
That's the rivalry game.
so
Yeah.
that's.
It might be Thanksgiving night.
I mean,
I'll look it
that
up.
might be the.
I got you.
If Texas only covers by 3 to Texas A&M, I think that would be an even bigger one because they should railroad Texas, or they should railroad Texas A&M more than I thought they would railroad A&M or Vandy.
Even after Saturday night's result, A&M looked real okay. Second half, A&M looked really good. Garrett Nussmeier made 3 just egregious pass mistakes. Marcel Reed kind of came in, got that offense going for Colin Klein with the running quarterback, but A&M really kind of took over that second half against LSU, and it was 17-7 at half LSU and a 38-23 final for Texas A&M, who sit alone at the top of the SEC.
They play Texas on the 30th, so
Okay.
same Saturday.
So same Saturday, excuse me, I apologize.
Yeah.
A&M, to me, Mike Elko's defense flying around, especially on third down, if they can just figure out this kind of offense quarterback thing, because their offense is not bad. Their offense is very productive outside of the quarterback. Robert, is this just a Marcel Reed, Connor Wegman, eventually the indecisiveness or the inexperience or whatever you want to call it at the quarterback position is going to catch up with A&M? Or can A&M kind of ride this out with Marcel Reed, maybe go to him full time and figure something out and actually make it to Atlanta?
I mean, it kind of is. So for them, it's working. They got the whole 2 quarterback system because it kind of makes A&M hard to plan for because
Sure.
if they're starting Connor, who is your big arm, and then Reed's more of your runner, so it's like they're kind of. I don't know if they're just like it's a weird mechanic how they're kind of using both of them to where it's like, are they eventually going to just fully switch to one, or do you even flirt that and you just keep using both of them effectively? And I mean, they very well could end up sitting in Atlanta. It's like not. It's kind of far off from what we thought this beginning of the season.
Southeastern Conference standings are A&M 5-0, Georgia 4-1, Texas 3-1, Tennessee 3-1, LSU 3-1. Okay, this could be. Let's just say A&M goes plays Texas end of the year, loses, right, and that's their only conference loss. Texas only has 1 conference loss. Georgia only has 1 conference loss. Not Bama, excuse me. Tennessee only has 1 conference loss. You're going to get some weird tiebreakers in there because Georgia beat Texas. Texas would have beat the Aggies. Tennessee, I'm sorry, they can't all be with 1 conference loss because Tennessee and Texas have to play each other. So let's just assume Georgia beats Tennessee. So it would be a Georgia beat Texas, Texas beat A&M, and A&M beat everybody else. So I don't know what the tiebreaker would be in that scenario, but this SEC finally gets interesting in the end of the year. I mean, you can say the same thing for the Big Ten too, right? Like with Oregon and Penn State and Indiana, like Things
So-
get very interesting very quickly.
LSU still has to play Alabama.
Yep.
Wait, Alabama has 2 losses. I forgot. I'm sorry. So that doesn't matter.
I mean, it matters because LSU
Yeah.
still technically is
I mean,
3-1. They're right there as well.
We still have 3 to 4 conference games left for the SEC. Obviously, you said
'Cause-
Tennessee plays Georgia, which they do, or Texas. I'm sorry. Texas obviously plays Texas A&M, and I said Georgia. You were correct on Georgia. So there's a few teams that are gonna play each other, but it's not like the Big Ten where the top 3 after this week do not play each other.
Right.
Because Indiana doesn't play Oregon, right?
Right. You're right.
Oh, I literally have Oregon up right here. So it's not that case. Michigan's the only one that can play spoiler to 2 of them.
Robert, are you looking up tiebreakers right now?
Well, I'm just kind of like looking at the SEC as a whole, and it's like, so if Alabama, let's just say, wins the rest of their games, they beat LSU, okay? And Georgia beats Tennessee, gives them their second loss. You have Georgia, who somehow loses to Ole Miss, gives them their second loss. A&M loses to Texas, and then they drop one at South Carolina.
This weekend.
Right.
Big game this weekend.
So
Yep.
now everyone has 2 losses.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I don't know.
That
And
chaos.
There's no doubt in my mind that the SEC already has like a thought that they're like, hey, if this happens, Bama's going in. There's no doubt in my mind. Bama could lose every single conference game, and somehow they will switch it around to make sure that they get in.
I don't know how, speaking of getting in, I don't know how the Missouri Tigers are still getting in the AP Top 25. The Missouri Tigers are really bad offensively, and their wide receiving core is like top 5 in the nation with Luther Burden and Marcel Weiss. It's not Marcel Weiss, but his last name's Weiss. I just had to comment on that. Like, I watched them get absolutely drubbed by Alabama, and I know the backup quarterback was in for a majority of that game, but come on. I mean, this is like the 3rd straight time I've watched Missouri play, and Missouri can barely move the football. What are we doing?
Theo Weiss Jr.
Theo Weiss, thank you. In terms of big games, though, Robert, this weekend is one of the biggest all year so far. Maybe outside of Georgia, Texas, because those are 2 real big brand SEC schools. This week, sitting in front of us in the Big 12. A random draw tiebreaker is a possibility, though, for the SEC. Robert, you just sent in the chat, which those are my favorite. It's like the last resort. You've met everything.
Yep.
It's like, fine, whatever.
That's how it is.
It is number 4 Ohio State going to number 3 Penn State. Yes, it is at noon. Yes, the big noon kickoff ruined college football. I went on a rant about this already. Simeon, in that rant, you called me an old man because how dare I? You know, I wanted my
was
big
a couple years ago.
Oh
yeah,
this podcast was fresh. My podcast studio was actually flipped around the other way, facing the other way at that time.
Yep.
But before Robert, give me the keys to the game and then give me a winner.
Well, keys for the game. Ohio State needs to run the ball, and they have to run it effectively because Penn State's defense is quite porous. However,
You think?
I think running the ball. If you watch that Wisconsin game, Penn State did not look good defensively at all, and they kind of effectively ran the ball at them. But if you have to throw the ball against Penn State, that's where you get into trouble because Penn State's secondary is pretty good. For Penn State, they just have to attack Ohio State. Just attack. Use your quarterback, use his legs. Just keep spreading the ball, keep attacking the edges because Ohio State is going to get tired. They are going to get tired. Nebraska showed that. Nebraska kept punching them and punching them and punching them. And it got to a point where Ohio State kind of didn't want to be on that field a little bit. And then they needed the referee's help to kind of bail them out. Ohio State also is not great on the road. That's kind of another issue for them. But ultimately, I would have to say that Ohio State is probably going to win this game. That's what I'm going to pick, because I think Ohio State's going to start fast, and Penn State does not start fast. They are a 100% bona fide second half team.
Great analysis. Yeah, Nebraska, Ohio State last week, 273 to 285 total yards. So what?
I was just laughing. Great analysis.
Great. I didn't
Great
know
analysis there, Robert.
I didn't know how I wanted to spin this into, and I got stuck halfway in there. Guys, we're dropping the lead on this story. First of all, Will Howard, kid, wanted to go to Penn State, didn't get an offer, so he's going back for quote unquote revenge. But the lead is being dropped. Ryan Day is what, 2-7 against AP top 10 teams, right?
Yeah.
Franklin ain't much better. Does Franklin even have a win against an AP top 10 team?
Oh yeah, this is definitely the battle of the mediocre coaches.
This is the battle
at big programs
of
yeah.
Can't win a big game coaches, right?
Yeah.
So who's
loser by default?
Loser by default,
or winner by default. I'm not sure which is more of a burn in this case.
Who's gonna get out of their coordinator's way more? Is it going to be Ryan Day that's going to get out of Chip Kelly's ear and let Chip Kelly run offense and actually get this thing going? Or is it going to be Franklin getting out of Cole Nicky's ear? Because Robert, we have a coworker at work, big time Penn State fan. I would say he's one of the more self-aware Penn State fans, and he's like, at some points they're very creative. It's awesome to watch. They got Tyler Warren center, going out for passes and things like that. And then all of a sudden it's inside zone, off left tackle, off right tackle, 5-yard hitch that's incomplete, 3 and out, right? So who's getting out of whose ear to make
this is the easiest. I'm going to cut you off. The answer is Ryan Day.
Okay. So then we're all picking Ohio State then.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Especially if Drew Allar doesn't play.
If I could get a guarantee that Drew Allar was playing, I would take Penn State. It would be a lock of my week, and it would be money line.
Who gets fired, did you just say, Robert?
Wait, because right here, honestly, is going to make or break someone's season.
Yeah, the season, but I don't. The buyouts are too big.
No.
But I mean, Franklin's is kind of large. But so Penn State loses this game.
Okay.
Not only did you lose to Ohio State. Again, you haven't beat them since what, 2016, 18? Right.
8 years.
Right. And you lost to them at home.
Yep.
Plus you have all the off the field stuff going on and all that.
I'm not going to comment about it.
Do they kind of look at Penn and it's like what good is Franklin if you haven't beat Michigan in years, you haven't beat Ohio State in years, we're back to the same, you put us now even further behind the 8 ball. Hell, Indiana's going to probably get in before Penn State does now if they lose. Or is it Ohio State where Ryan Day gets his second Big Ten loss? You have a $20 million budget now that you're just wasting, and you have to pray and hope that something somewhere happens. You absolutely have to beat Indiana now to even try and be competitive in the Big Ten.
Don't forget that you have a proven winning coach as your head coach, as your offensive coordinator, right behind.
Yeah, as Chip.
Yeah.
So, does Ohio State, because there goes your Big Ten champ, possibly for your Big Ten championship, and probably takes you, at least on the outside looking in, to get in the playoffs. Like, if Ohio State doesn't make the playoffs or the Big Ten championship, I mean,
so
that's rough.
There's no doubt in my mind that Ohio State is beating Michigan at the end of the year. I want all the TikTok people who might or might not see this and think that I am super biased towards Michigan, and I am a little bit, but I'm very self-aware. Listen, Ohio State should just throttle Michigan at the end of the year. However, Robert, I will expand on your point. What if Ryan Day loses is now 2-8 against AP top 10 teams, and then only beats Michigan by 3 points.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's an egregious call, right? The refs missed something, or Michigan
JT was
just,
short, so it's about time.
Yeah, or Michigan just blunders it, and it is only a 3-point win. You're not in the Big Ten championship game. You're at large. At that point, your seeding is probably going to be what? You're probably not getting a home game at that point in time, right? With 2 Big Ten losses, and you're not looking good down the stretch. You're not getting a home game.
No.
I don't know what Ryan Day's buying, but this could be a, hey, Ryan, we gave you all the assets in the world. We don't want to fire you because you are a good coach, but you need to go and test the NFL market, right? You need to go see if you can't do this somewhere else.
So
just forward a call and be like, hey, Ryan Day, why don't you come down here and try this out?
One could say a reverse Urban Meyer, which is his favorite position.
Literally. Nice.
So, Micaiah, to answer your question, I think we can look at this a little bit more technical with a little bit more inside information. I think Penn State, the boosters are they're getting older. They're kind of tired of Penn State football not doing what they need to. So they're taking their money and going home. Or they're taking their money and giving it to wrestling or volleyball or basketball, even as Penn State basketball has turned around. And they're doing other stuff with it. Costs for season tickets have gone up from what I've heard. It requires so much more money to get in the door. It just doesn't make sense. I can take my money and go somewhere else with it if I want to do this. However, OSU is always going to be a football school. It's going to be hard for OSU not to be a football school. So I think you look at this and go, I think Penn State's more happy being mediocre than Ohio State is. So
no, 100%.
Yeah, I think Ohio State, if they lose, and it's not the end of it will be at the end of the season, and he'll either be the new head coach in Jacksonville or he'll be the new head coach in Carolina or wherever, and Ryan Day's out.
Just so we're all picking Ohio State. That's fine.
Yeah.
Again, if I could get confirmation that Drew
respectfully,
Allar,
fuck Ohio State.
Respectfully, if I can get confirmation that Drew Allar is playing, I will end up betting Penn State. That's just going to happen on Saturday. I'm just letting you know. Game time decision.
11:59.
At 11:59, if he's playing, I will put one in for Penn State plus the points. I just want everyone to do that. Real quickly, at the top of the Atlantic Coast Conference, that is the ACC for those of you uneducated. It is currently Clemson 5-0, Miami 4-0, the SMU Mustangs 4-0, and the Pittsburgh Panthers 3-0. Why am I telling you this? Because the number 20 Mustangs are hosting the number 18 Pittsburgh Panthers. Simeon, you already commented. Eli Holstein may or may not go. Did not know that. Robert, if you can find something on that, that's great. In the meantime, if not, what should be noted, though, is that SMU's defense in conference is rather good. They score 144 points so far, and they've only given up 80. Pittsburgh has only allowed 52 points in conference play, but has only scored 92. So SMU has definitely has the offense to go to do more with. So this is going to be such an exciting game. SMU has kind of been a sleeper. They were a sleeper last year in American, and SMU's kind of a college football sleeper in general. In 3 days, they raised enough funds, $215 million, to basically join the ACC for free and not get anything in return besides, hey, we're part of the ACC. We can get a seat at the table now.
Maybe a dub this year.
So SMU's schedule down the stretch, very doable if they get past Pittsburgh, home to Boston College, on the road to Virginia, home against Cal. They're not traveling real far. They do travel to Virginia, but nothing super far. So Kevin Jennings, ever since he took over kind of in week 2, week 3-ish, he brings that running element to this SMU squad. And then on the other end, Pittsburgh, Eli Holstein's kind of opened up this offense up, made it more of an air raid attack. Pittsburgh's done very well, but their schedule's a little more difficult. So say they get past SMU, then it's at home to Virginia, the big one. They host Clemson. That would be electric. They go to Louisville. Jeff Brom Second half of the season, upset, especially at that point. Pittsburgh probably be ranked in top 10. And then at Boston College, the weekend of Thanksgiving. They're 25th in passing. They're 64th in rushing, so they're very balanced. Guys, just very quick, and then let's get into locks. Who you guys got? SMU.
You got those backwards, Micaiah. They're 56th in passing, 24th in rushing.
Say 25th. No, they're 25th in passing, 64th in rushing.
Yeah,
What?
Simeon. Duh.
On the what?
I'm looking at it right here. Team stats.
I'm looking at team stats too. Passing yards, 242.5. That's on the year. 56.
282. I'm talking about Pitt.
Ah, that's where we're getting back
Okay.
up. All right, I thought I was looking at SMU. Shut up, Robert.
Okay, Pittsburgh SMU, gentlemen. Who you? I'm going to take SMU because I like their defense and they're at home.
I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm going Pitt.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Pitt. He's a game time decision.
Eli Holstein? Yeah, okay. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course.
Give me SMU. I just like the story. I also like that they play at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. Different, not Gerald R. Ford. So not a presidential stadium. Thought it was. They're favored by 7.5 right now. By the way, that's a pretty good spread. Also, comments before I go over and we move on to picks. Guys, college football is going to be done at 10 p.m. So you will be right in bed with a cup of cocoa, ready to go. At the end of the day,
man, brother,
you don't have to watch Hawaii
Robert just got a boner.
beat Nevada at 12 p.m. You know,
I have the number of times I have fallen asleep at like 11:30, woke up at 1:30 in the morning, and looked at my phone, and I'm like, Hawaii's still playing. It's the third quarter.
How many times
And
have you turned on your television to that game, though?
Oh, bro, I took a TV out of my bedroom. It's just on my phone. So, like, I'll throw it on and then fall asleep by the end of the quarter.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Before we move on, I just want to go over a couple more of the good games. Clemson obviously has Louisville. Louisville played some good games, and Clemson's known to fall where they don't need to. Texas A&M plays South Carolina. Only a 2.5-point favorite, A&M.
Trap game there, especially because it's in South Carolina. I just don't know South Carolina has the quarterback to throw the ball enough.
We'll see. It's Beamer Ball down there in where is that? Is that in Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia? Cheapest SEC ticket is Mississippi State. They play UMass. That's just a fun fact for you. It's not a game that you actually care about.
I think Mississippi State's going to throttle UMass. Mississippi State can actually score a lot of points with Jeff Lebby.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying
No,
it's the cheapest game if you want to go watch SEC football.
Yeah.
Again, North Carolina is somehow only getting 2.5 points against Florida State, so keep an eye on that.
I guess we know Simeon's lock.
Huh?
I guess we know your lock.
Yeah. Texas Tech is playing Iowa State, another one of those trap games. Iowa State is a 2-score favorite in that one, 14.5. Interested to see UGA is only 16.5 points favorite against Florida.
It's a rivalry game.
It is a rivalry. That's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, technically.
Yes, that
that
the
isn't
city of
technically?
Jacksonville has requested us not to call it that anymore because people get too drunk. Update, city of Jacksonville. It's Florida. Everyone gets too drunk.
No one likes Jacksonville.
It's also
That's why people are
game.
getting too drunk.
That city sucks.
Which is funny. This stadium, Jacksonville's moving. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be moving to England relatively soon. Of course, Oregon plays Michigan 3:30 in Ann Arbor. That should be a fun game.
That'll be on the lock segment.
To watch Michigan lose. It definitely will be. Last three here. I'm sorry. Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois. Minnesota's a 3-point favorite right now.
They should be.
Is their quarterback back? Is Illinois' quarterback back yet? Did they lose a
Altmaier,
quarterback?
he played last week. He's trash, but he played last week. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Cares.
We'll see how Ole Miss is only a 7-point favorite against Arkansas, so their favoritism has come down by quite a few points.
I
And
don't know what the over-under is on that game.
Game we did not touch but probably should have, Duke at Miami. Miami's a 21.5-point favorite, and Duke has what? 2 losses? 1 loss on the season?
2
losses on the season.
Oh,
So,
by the way, for those of you that didn't see, SMU Duke, Duke had the ball, short 35-yard field goal to win the game. The SMU defensive lineman made the greatest athletic play in the history of college football. Standing still, jumps over the offensive line without touching anyone, or it would have been a penalty, and he didn't get a running start. So like 40-inch vertical to block the kick to send it to overtime. SMU scores first play of overtime. Then Duke scores, goes for 2, and doesn't get it. That's why I said that Duke blocks a field goal and then gets or SMU blocks a field goal, then gets a stop. It was incredible.
I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
That just seems like the appropriate soundbite
It was.
for the moment.
Congratulations.
All right. Like Micaiah said, we're all hovering right around 500. Robert and I are 16 and 14. He went 2-1 last week. Finally called one right. I went 1-2 last week, and very upset at, I don't even remember, Navy. I don't remember my picks from last week. Micaiah, rough 0-3 loss for you last week.
Listen, I'm very upset with Eastern Michigan. I've decided I'm stopped doing all this research. I'm literally just going to scroll, see what looks good, because clearly the research is getting me nowhere. Because
Welcome to the club, baby.
That's what I do.
And you know who else is in this club? My wife, Carrie. 5-0 last week.
Yeah,
she
let's go.
is a blazing 29-16.
It's
And this
ridiculous.
comes off of a 4-1 week. She's incredible at this. Go follow us in Instagram, 4th and 1 pod, to get her picks, and then just make gaggles of money. And most of the time they're underdogs too.
Yeah. Also, remember, do not take the if you would have taken the what is it called? The parlay, you would have won last week on Gary. Yeah. But don't take the parlay and you'll be up. It's basically what Micaiah's saying.
Get us started, Simeon. Go.
Sorry, my phone is ringing. My wife is calling me. She doesn't realize I'm on the podcast. Listen, bounce back game for Vanderbilt. Can't even tell you who they're playing. Completely forgot because I only put down my picks. Okay? We only put them down. We're also totally going Superdog next year because that would make way more sense for the way I'm picking. Vanderbilt 6.5 points for what I have. By the way, that Oregon line has moved 2 points.
They're playing
Vandy,
Auburn.
Plus 6.5 against a Hugh Freeze team, and Hugh Freeze is probably going to get fired.
Peyton
Give me Vandy plus the points.
You know what? I went 0-3, so I'll let Robert kind of finish things up. This is going to kind of be very boring pick, but listen, Duke plays defense. Miami doesn't, and Duke's getting 21.5 points. I think that's a home game. Is that a home game, Robert, for them?
No, it's at Miami.
It doesn't matter because Duke plays defense, and Duke has covered every single game this year. It's a noon kick, so it's not going to be sleepy. It's fine. It's up to 21.5. They might get Miami because, you know, the other thing? Their former coach is now the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. Maybe some revenge for some firings. Miami turns the ball over too much. Duke keeps it within 3 tutties.
This is going to be a really boring pick for me because it's the same pick as Micaiah. And I wanted him to say, we're going to take the 21.5, but since we're locked at 20.5, it's kind of dumb.
Yeah. No, we got him 21.5. We're good.
Oh, okay. I thought we had him at 20.5. So we got him at 21.5. That's 3 touchdowns. That's about 3 touchdowns too many. That's going to keep that game a little. It's going to be pretty close, I think, at least for 3/4 of the game. It could be a 2-point game for literally the entire game, and then they could rattle off 18 points for all I care and win by 20. Don't care. I think Duke does keep this game close. Miami probably still going to win this game, but I do believe in the Blue Devils out of North Carolina. So it's going to be Duke plus 21.5. Yeah, boring.
Happens to the best of us. Something that isn't happening to the best of us. Well, I mean, Air Force, the Chair Force, I guess, kind of isn't the best of us. Who knows? Army, I believe, is hosting. Actually, hold on. I can tell you here in 2 seconds. Yes, Army is hosting the Air Force cadets. Air Force looks like absolute trash this year, and Army is getting 22.5 points. It's not getting. They're giving 22.5 points. Technically. Look at that, Micaiah.
Hey.
Go screw yourself, buddy. So give me Army minus 22.5 to beat Air Force. I just think they want to show Navy what's what.
Simeon goes back to the well.
Simeon goes back to that Air Force. Or oh my goodness. Well, I mean,
Argue
either
well.
one, either
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Hey, it's not a money line, so go screw yourself, buddy.
All righty. That's fine. Listen, I'm just going to keep it in the family of service academies. Navy, I told you, that horrible 51-14 loss was not as horrible as it what should have been. And if I know anything, it's at a service academy who came in with 2 turnovers, who had 6 turnovers, ain't going to have a single turnover. And they're taking on a Rice team who's 2-5, and they're getting 10.5 points. Give me the Navy midshipmen to bounce back and just throttle the Rice Owls. Whoo! Where have I heard that
Go.
before?
Amen, brother. Let's go.
Let's go. Navy midshipmen minus 10.5 over the Rice Owls.
Let me just go ahead and 3:30 p.m. Saturday. Indiana versus Michigan State, a.k.a. little brother, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It don't matter. They can't beat Michigan on or off the field. Indiana's only a 7.5 point favorite. How? I don't know, because Michigan State only looks good when they play Michigan because Michigan has no offense and barely a defense, and they still lost. Indiana, minus 7.5. Lock it in.
That's a great actual pick. I very much enjoy that, Robert.
Yeah, you're welcome, bud. Glad I could help.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's on me. I'm going to help you too, and I already spoiled this one, and I left it for last. I picked no Tuesday games. I picked no Wednesday games. I picked no Friday games. This is a Saturday games. It's North Carolina only giving 2.5 points against FSU. FSU has looked. Listen, there is, like Texas and Oregon, then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's Liberty and FSU. That's how bad FSU has looked. They were supposed to be out here. They were supposed to be at top of the ACC. Sorry, they're not a big anything. Powder Puff team. I already went over this. North Carolina minus 2.5. Their quarterback must be injured, or Mac Brown must be in the hospital or something. I don't know what happened, but
so here's the deal. I woke up Sunday morning and I just felt disgusted because I went 0-3 and I was angry at the world. And the first thing I did is I said, enough is enough. What do I know? And I know a couple things. I know Florida State's real bad. I know Navy wasn't as bad as it showed out on Saturday against Notre Dame. And I know Michigan is fooling everybody, including Vegas. And you're telling me that Oregon is only a 13.5 point favorite against Michigan? Are you kidding me? Oregon beat Michigan State by 21 earlier this year. Michigan just beat Michigan State at home, needed trick plays, needed all that stuff. Oh, they were clever with their offense. They used it correctly. Alex Orji and Davis Warren. I'm not getting back-to-back weeks of that of Big Blue Nation. Give me Oregon to throttle stomp the defending national champions at home in the Big House. Oregon minus the easiest 13.5 you will ever bet in your life.
I was going to take that if I hadn't already seen that you took it. So, Robert,
Man,
thank you.
It's gonna be really embarrassing when Michigan wins by 3.
I know.
Yeah. It sure is, but it's
They're
going to
gonna
be
win
the
by a
greatest
safety.
ever. I won't
2
even
points.
care.
They're gonna no. They're
Walk
gonna
off
return,
safety. Walk off
Yeah.
blocked punt for
Yeah.
a touchdown. You bet.
No, holding
Yeah.
in the end zone.
Holding in the end zone. Something stupid. Yep.
Yep. If there's one thing we all know, Robert's got to pick Tuesday game, Wednesday game, Thursday, maybe a Friday game. You get a little crazy. So I'm going to go back to the well.
Yeah, you
Okay?
are.
Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Kennesaw State, baby, versus Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers versus the Owls. Over under.
This is a really good bet, dude.
I got
hate
them.
this.
I got them at the over under at the point of which I put this in my phone. 46.5 was the over under. I'm taking the over. If there was somehow I could do a 25-point freaking teaser to where the over under was like 71, I would, because Western Kentucky is going to mud stomp a hole in their ass. Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State over 46.5.
Love it.
Tune in or don't tune in. Up to you. You could have kept that rolling. It was fine.
It's
It
the
was
wrong
the
music.
wrong one.
Oh, yeah.
We had to switch out of it, and you guys have to switch to some other podcast because this one's over. It's the 4th and 1. We'll see you guys next week.
Wash your hands, you filthy animals. Enjoy your college football Saturday.
Like and subscribe if you made it this far, please.
Yes, absolutely.